Let's see who's sponsoring tonight's Hazmat Guys Roundtable. Hazmat 101 Consultants. Hazmat 101 Consultants and their instructors can provide quality consulting and virtual or in-person hazardous materials training for your agency. Owner and lead instructor Bob Cascignano is also available for lecturing at your fire or hazmat conference and has in fact done many speaking engagements across the country. Visit their site at www.hazmatconsultants.com or email Bob Cascignano at bob@hazmat101consultants.com. For over 20 years, K&R Plaques have had the pleasure of helping clients choose awards for the people they want to honor. Their state-of-the-art equipment allows clients to design, customize, and personalize the awards they choose for that special someone. With one of the largest selections of plaques, awards, trophies, and clothing apparel, they can deliver quality products to satisfy any customer needs. No order is too big or too small. Visit their website at www.knrplaques.com or email at sales@knrplaques.com. Responder Training. RTE is the leading company in delivering propane training along with emergency response equipment. Responder Training has many propane flaring kits, water injection kits, accessories, and replacement parts available. They also sell the only commercially available 1-inch propane flare kit, appropriately named the Dragon Slayer, because size does matter. Contact our good friend, owner instructor Ron Huffman for more information. You can reach him at 765-524-4848. You can email Ron at respondertraining.rdh.gmail.com or peruse his website at respondertraining.com. If you'd like to sponsor the show and help keep live hazmat conversations coming in the future and help send at least one lucky participant to a national level hazmat conference, send an email to bob@thehazmatguys.com and he'll send you the information. Thanks a lot. Now on with the show.
Cut.
All right, start the show over. Start over.
There's one mustache style that I don't think will ever make a comeback.
No,
The Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, I doubt that's going to ever make it big again.
Probably not now.
The pasture.
Yeah.
This is where all the cool kids. Anyway,
You got your tormentors down.
Yes, tormentors or outriggers or jacks down, as they say.
Ooh, I like that. Outriggers.
You like
Jacks
that?
down. That's good.
That's the jacks down move. But so what's going on? Where's everybody been? What are you doing?
I'm freezing my ass off. I'm just gonna be honest.
What is it? 80 degrees down there?
I'm
cold?
not down there. I'm
Is it the Coumadin?
I'm in an undisclosed location, and it's effing cold. It's like 19 degrees.
He's in my house.
Don't look behind the green screen. Look
The
behind the green
call
screen.
is coming from the basement.
That's impossible. There's no basement.
How cool would that be if I just reached out and touched Mike on the shoulder right now?
That would be really cool.
Saying no volume. If our producer could check on that, but no volume there. Somebody put in there. If anybody else is having that, give us a hint.
Oh, I've got volume coming through mine.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Check to see if your volume is on. How ironic is that they wouldn't hear me give that? Never mind.
So the premise of this episode is about what did we learn this year, and we by all means put something into the YouTube or the. I'm not really watching the Facebook, but maybe one of you guys watching the Facebook comments?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
All right, we'll get to that and we'll watch that. But the question is what did you learn, or what did you observe, or what did you pull out of this year? And so I'd like to just kind of go around the room and see what people have, and if the crowd agrees, and et cetera. I guess we could start with the ever-present Jay-Z.
Well, that's kind of a tough question, since I'm kind of stuck here in Arizona, not doing a whole lot of stuff. But I don't know. I try to keep up with stuff with with what goes on in the news and whatnot. And it's just, there's things that happen. I'm a real big proponent of natural gas, and that's still going on. We're still blowing people up. We're still responding to those calls, and we're still trying to figure that one out. So, I like to bring that up every now and again, because I think we get complacent on that stuff. And I like to see people have a little more awareness in that. And, I think it's just something we when I teach across the country and I do stuff on natural gas, most hazmat companies say it's not a hazardous materials incident, which I find interesting. They stick to it, and they say, well, we're just, it isn't a big deal. And mainly it's because the gas company does not want them messing around with their product. And what I say to that is, that's fine. When your product stays in the container, you can have it all you want, but when it comes out of the container,
it's ours.
Now it's my problem.
It's the fire department's problem. So, I just watch a lot of that stuff, over the year, see what happens, try to report it, try to get, some reviews on it, people's attention on it, to make sure that the fire departments are training on it and not getting complacent. Because we go, when I was there, we used to go on natural gas calls every single day. And sometimes guys just are like, not another one of these, and they wouldn't get bunkered out or whatever. And you just never know when something like that is going to happen. So I kind of pay attention to that a little bit. I don't know how you guys' thoughts are on that.
We just had one maybe 2 days ago where they were renovating a building, and they had a call before you dig, right? Which is what, 811?
811.
811 is the CBYD, as they call it, right? And then they didn't want to wait, and they dug, and they cracked the pipe, and they filled a 5-story, I'm going to say 200 by 200 building up with gas, 100% from the top corner to the bottom corner, full of gas. And there was a lot of people pulling their hair out, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And there is a lot of complacency with it. I would say that is probably, again, this is my anecdotal stuff, is that I think that is right behind how complacent we are with gasoline, because everybody fills their cars with gasoline. But it's very close.
It is close. I definitely learned this year because our matrix changed where me and Bob work, and we now go on every gas line that is struck, hit, dented, vibrating, banged. And I learned just how many idiot contractors there are out there. Because I swear to God, 8:30, my day starts with a gas line struck.
Dude, that's a brilliant business thing, is how not to hit a pipe.
I don't think
the world.
I don't think anybody's ever done it. I think that is how they dig. Like, their directions are dig till it hisses. Just like that.
Got it.
I'm not even, guys, I'm not even kidding you. 8:30 on the dot. Contractor struck gas.
That seems about right. You guys had one. I put it on my Facebook site. You guys had one a week ago in Brooklyn, I think.
No, we have one every day.
Well, no, you had an actual explosion, and you see the fireball coming out.
Okay.
I think it was in Brooklyn. See, you guys have so many of them. It's like,
Yeah, I'm on vacation, so
if they don't name it like after somebody, then
Hey, they hit a gas pipe in my backyard. I'm getting a pool dug. They hit an 1.5-inch gas pipe in my backyard.
Of course they did, because that's what they do. I'm telling you,
They're
that is
professionals.
what they do.
Did you run out there like rodeo style and zip tie it in half or something?
Luckily, I was
He's got his
in
cowboy hat.
Chicago. I was in Chicago drinking. I didn't know what was going on. They called me up and told me, hey, we hit a gas pipe in your backyard. And I was like, okay. And they go, yeah, we turned it off. We're still digging the pool. It's like, keep going.
It's outside. It's fanning. Not a
It'll be
big
wet
deal.
when I get back. That's great.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of interesting. And then I still think we have a lot to learn. PPE is a big deal. Bob said something or showed something on the ammonia thing that happened in St. Louis. That was really interesting. I'd like to know more about that myself, but that had some interesting things. So we still see things. We're still learning things.
Isn't it ironic that we see the same things over and over and over and over again? It's like nobody pays attention. We get social media at the wazoo, and we are great. And we talk about this in a lot of our classes. Firemen are great about beating our chest. Oh, we did this. We made, whatever. Look how studly we are. And we are horrible about talking about mistakes and how we screwed up. And that's where we need to learn our lessons from. And there's a lot of things, things that I've learned this year is how many people don't know how to use a basic 4-gas meter, but yet they have them on every single engine company at an ops level. And a place I was just out not too long ago, I asked a kid, I said, hey, show me how you do air monitoring. It's on his engine, part of their response, whatever. And he's got a Prusik cord on it, and he's swinging it back and forth like a priest in a Catholic church.
Like the
no.
smoking pocketbook.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, the incense that everybody loves to smell so much in church, when I used to go. So I said, no, bro, really, show me how you do it. He goes, no, and he started dropping his head. He's like, no, that's how I was shown. Like, holy shit. So we're not doing, what I found is there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of not learning lessons. And
Because I was taught to yo-yo it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way you get high, medium, low.
Or you can do the slinky. You can do the slinky method back and forth.
I think swinging around your head is a little more functional.
I do. I extend the wand and I walk like I'm a blind person. I just kind of tap it. Put myself in track. On that one, something you kind of alluded into very quickly, but like fake or misconstrued information that's thought to be real. We get this an awful lot. And I have the funny haha thing. You're responding in, and the chief goes, "We have like 40 gallons of gasoline on the ground." You're like, "All right, where's it leaking from?" And it's like a Prius, and you're like, "There's like 16 ounces of gasoline in that thing." So like, yeah, totally misconstrued or fake information that's coming in. What did we have the other day? It just happened the other day, where we were on scene for they overfilled a now defunct diesel tank, right? So they pumped into a dead pipe about 200 gallons of diesel into a basement. So it was coming up from the ground. It was coming from, and for a solid 25 to 30 minutes, nobody knew what was happening. Like, is it a fire? Are we going to a sewer leak? Is it a gas leak? Is it a diesel leak? Is it a home heating oil? Is it the oil burner? It's like, can somebody tell us what's going on, please? And we're on scene.
Well, we had along those lines, we had a propane run, relatively new boss. She's been with us for maybe about a year now, and learning great, not a whole ton of prior experience. And we had a run. We got all this information. We gave information. We gave suggestions. And when we got to the box, it was nothing that they said it was. Like, not even one detail was the same. And so we did everything that we do. And I was driving her that night, and we're driving back, and she closes the door, and we start going. And the first thing she does, she goes, all that talking back and forth, all that information, it was just, she was like, that threw me off so much. Like, nothing was actually what it was. And it's so, we had to talk to her about, like, taking everything with a grain of salt. and then taking the information that you've heard from somebody else and trying to disprove it, and trying to make sure that all those things that you heard are true, and how hard it is to take an assumption based upon what you think you know, and to push that off to the side and move forward. And that whole process, it can really throw you off of your game. It can really sidetrack the operation.
And have people on your team try to dismiss your idea.
Yes.
Like intentionally try to I don't take offense to it. Please derail me.
Yeah. I think that actually happens more than not, Mike. I mean, I've had that too. And actually, when you're on scene, when you're talking about something that's happening, and then somebody comes up and goes, "No, that's not what's happening." And you're like, "What?" And they're like, "No," and you're like, "Well, wait a minute, are you sure?" So it's almost like, and again, sometimes you're dealing with people who have no hazmat knowledge, so they, it's the CO2 thing. Oh, it's filled with CO.
Yeah.
Well, the Circle K is filled with CO.
What?
Yeah, CO. Are you CO2? Oh, yeah. No, that's maybe that too. Maybe that.
You know what I mean.
Stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
So it's you really got to kind of go with an open mind. I agree. That's a good point.
I'll give you one of the two I have written down. Is I picked up this year that training does not need a lot of props and flair. It can be super simple. It could be just a conversation. And I'll give you a specific thing. This happened very recently, is that somebody intentionally, mistakenly, whatever it was, we never got the real story. It doesn't really matter. Somebody sprayed pepper spray on the wall. And I'm going to say, with all probability, everybody that's listening to this does not have the capabilities of picking up mace or pepper spray or capsaicin when you respond in. Because all you can really pick up is like the propellant, the flammability. You might be able to pick up with some specific types of mass spectroscopy, some types of variants, whatever. But the thing is that the key to this thing is the symptomology, right? You go and interview people and you go, what'd you feel? What'd you see? And then the point that was hooking everybody up was the wall was a pale yellow and there was a orange spray across it. I said, that's pepper spray. And I'm like, well, how can you be sure? I'm like, well, if it's orange or pink or purple, typically that's something that they put in the types of pepper spray. So when I spray the crowd of perps,
right, and I can identify you later.
I can identify you by the orange or purple or pink face, and then I know who was sprayed. That's a cop marker. And they're like, I've never heard that before. I'm like, all right, so so you don't need a lot of props and a lot of flair, and you don't need $1 million of, equipment and stuff. Training happens on a breath of something that you don't think is important, but that guy walks away with $1 million of gold, and he's like, holy crap, it all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Right.
Like connecting the dots.
They're like, holy shit. And you're like, what? You didn't even know you gave it. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
That's big, man.
That's why sometimes they look at us like we've got freaking four heads.
Yeah. Keep it simple and basic when possible. And most of the time you can keep it possible. I'm going to say there are times where you got to get up in that. And when you do, you do.
Yeah,
no, I agree. And if you keep it basic, you can actually probably train more. And I think that's where we kind of falter a little bit, because hazmat's this much of our job as opposed to this much of EMS or fire or whatever you do. And if you don't continue that training, and you don't really put anything down, for if your SOPs don't have anything or like this much training, you need this much training, then they go by what they want to do. And sometimes what they want to do is not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Jeff, you brought up a good point about how much training is hazmat versus EMS. And it's ironic because I just said that today in the class that we're doing. And I asked them, I said, how much training do you do? I said, what's the biggest percent of calls? They said, oh, EMS. And I said, so how much training do you do on that? Oh, God, that's most of our training. I said, and how many hazmat calls do you run? Oh, not that much. I said, so let me get this straight. You do the most training on the calls you run the most, and the least amount of training on something that's probably going to reach out and kill you before that EMS call. I said, that's kind of ass backwards, isn't it? And then they were like,
Well, yeah.
you know, but that's as far, unfortunately, that's as far as the conversation is going to go until you get officers, lieutenants, chiefs, decision makers sitting in the class hearing us or others out there and go, you know what? Yeah, we don't need to just keep checking the box to make sure we get our ISO points or whatever bullshit stuff we got to have next week to put another feather in our cap that gets us nothing. And one day, you know, maybe somebody will wake up.
Yeah. Along the keep it simple and basics lines, right? That definitely doesn't mean. So I think sometimes people hear that and they dismiss the actual basics, right? And the actual basics in hazmat comes down to understanding chemical and physical properties, right? Like
Absolutely.
When you talk about training, everything, those basics that could be complex, complex ideas, complex thoughts, those are our basics. And you can't just, like, those are the things, like the basics can't be generalized. Like we try to generalize it when we're teaching people hazmat, right? When we're in front of the class and we're like, all right, we're going to generalize for you. But to really understand the basics, you definitely have to peel back the next layer of understanding.
Dude, it's funny you say that. I was talking to a couple of guys and we were just rapping. We were just BSing about propane. And I said to him, I go, all right, so we have a liquid leak of propane. How much is the expansion? And I expect them to know those numbers, right? I kind of, you know, there's things like 271. I'm like, great. But really, what is it? They're like, what do you mean? It's like, it's 271. I'm like, but why do I not care about 270 to 1? And I'm trying to lead them into it. And I'm like, because 271 is at 100% concentration. It won't go on fire. Where is my so now they have to look it up. Okay, 2.7%, or whatever the hell it is, 2.7, 2.3. I'm like, so convert that out to 1 gallon of liquid equals how many gallons of gas do I have to be worried about? It's like 13,000 gallons. I'm like, do you see how potentially they're like, all you got to do is flip. Now we understand those basics and flipping the coin a little bit differently. Expansion, like exponential expansion, because they're like, that's not the only. There's so much more to talk about here.
There's so much more to talk about. Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that stuff, man. You know what, for the record, I hate, and it's a pet peeve of mine, of the older guys that do I don't want to say back to the basics, because it's a term.
It's a simplified version of what the basics should be.
Right, but what happens is a lot of guys do back to the basics. You know, we can't get too far ahead of these guys. Let's go back to the basics. Let me translate that to you. That it means I'm going to recycle my old shit and do it again.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, no, this is nothing fresh. It's from the 60s.
It should be build on the basics.
Build on the basics. I like that.
Back to the basics.
But you know the flip side of that too is, especially in hazmat technicians or specialists or whatever you call yourself in your region, we go right to that level and we forget the ops part. You know, it's kind of like if you're, and I'm going to use the term I don't use at all. I'm married to a paramedic, so that's as close as I get to EMS, right? But let's look at EMS for a second. It's BLS before ALS, right? Same thing with hazmat. It's ops before tech. And I've had some technicians in the class that completely forgot how to use the ERG. Just because you're a technician doesn't mean you don't need to use the ERG anymore. It's got some useful information in there.
Yeah. I'll throw my unless you guys, anybody got a second one? Because I got a second one here.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
All right. This is funny because I will give you both sides of this coin, and it's amazing what I see on a daily basis versus what is not yet out there. Is I am flat out astounded by the exponential growth of batteries that we have gotten in the last year. I mean, it is off the chart. It is in the 10th power, if that, and I'm not exaggerating. Now, I have a friend that lives out in what we'll say a rural area of Pennsylvania. And I was talking to their fire department, and they were asking me to do a little training on the arm, just come out there, just, hey, listen, talk to us about something. And I said, why don't we do something about trainings, about batteries? And they're like, yeah, we really don't have very much of that. When you think about it, there's not a lot of e-bikes or a lot of, maybe a little hoverboards for the kids to play in the driveway.
But
they're not seeing
the iceberg.
They're not seeing it yet. Like we are seeing, and I was laughing with Jeff about this, is that we are seeing probably, and I Mike, contradict me on this one, between 2 and 6 legit full building fires a day due to batteries.
In the city where we work? Yeah, 100%.
No shit.
It is incredible. And anybody that is telling you they know what's going on and they're an authority and they're telling you how it works. There are people that are pretty spun up on this shit, but I will tell you, anybody that says they are the authority, they're full of shit. We are building this plane as we fly this.
Do you know what it takes in where we work? 3 separate entities are trying to coordinate the battery issue that we have, right? We have sanitation, we've got the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, and the fire department. And they're all trying to like work together. Do you know how bad a situation has to be for 3 city entities to be like, oh yeah, no, we got to work together on this one?
Nope.
And
I'll give you a quick example. Like so you get these scooters, right, where they do the deliveries. They do like the Chinese food or whatever deliveries, right? So what happens is, and I'm not saying this is, this is just one example. The guy's going to be going home. They're closing up. It's the last order. The guy says, listen, I'll drop it off on the way home. Let me take the battery out of the bike, put it on charge in the restaurant, throw the fresh one. I'll take it home, drop off this order on the way home, and I'll see you in the morning. No problem. We'll see you later. And they go home. Well, that battery has a meltdown, and it lights the whole place on fire. This happens all the time. So now we're picking up the battery, or the companies are picking up the battery, and they're throwing it in a bucket of water. So again, I am not telling you policy or anything that's out there, but one of my things is I monitor the headspace. I see if there's any flammability, and I throw a pH strip in it. If it comes back as red, it's a lead acid or an acid-based, right? And if it comes back as blue, it's probably the alkaline or the lithium ion. Okay. So I was having an argument with an unnamed person where they're like, well, who the hell determines that it's lithium ion? I go, I'm the guy. Me. They're like, yeah, but who made you? I'm like, all right.
You made me.
We're good. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. Like, I can tell you why I'm telling you that, but you have no conscience. Like, there is so many different people with different things to say about this thing. And it is exponent. I just saw the other day a replacement battery pack for a Tesla Model 3. I don't even know, on eBay for $750.
Wow.
You can replace the entire skateboard for $750. And I'm like, that can't be legit. And people are going to be buying.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It gets me thinking about all these things. And Bob remembers this. This is like Florida, 3 years ago, where a mother and a son were driving in the left lane, and they pulled over, and it would turn out to be an improperly installed battery in the Tesla or wherever the hell it was.
It was a Porsche SUV.
Yes.
Battery underneath the driver's seat. Potentially clogged hose. They had got exposed and passed out and died in the car and kind of drifted over to the median, and that's all she wrote. There's a lot more to it, but that's
yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of what happened.
A whole group of cowards that refused to go get her.
I remember that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say cowards. There was.
Oh, you know them.
There was I talked to people that were actually there. There was it was because of what some law enforcement officers got there first, described signs and symptoms, and said that they were dead. So that's what happened. And afterwards, the guys were like, yeah, we should have gone up, busted the window out, blah, 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 blah. But based on information, so there was a lot of lack of training, understanding, and but some of those guys, felt pretty bad about it. But anyway, getting back to the battery thing, maybe we should bring Paul Rogers back on and go into. First off, he's got such the look. Like he's the hot, and Paul, I hope you're watching right now because
could you imagine if he had this? Oh my God!
Forget it. That's like that. He'd be like
instant credibility.
What's the guy that all the girls are fanning over, the gray hair and the mustache, with the country, what the hell?
The Pringles guy.
Name? With the deep voice.
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott. Yeah, dude, you throw a mustache on Paul. And it's Sam Elliott right there. I'm telling you. God love him.
Get a little guitar.
Well, it's definitely popular. I was telling Bobby, I was talking to a friend of mine in Washington today about battery storage systems, and he had attended a class on it. They talked about the surprise incident that happened out there. And, there's just not a whole lot of information. There's not a whole lot of tactics involved in stuff like this. I mean, there's just not a whole lot for us to do. It's a lot of non-intervention, but the problem is we don't know how long that non-intervention is going to last for.
And we've done, me and Mike were laughing about this very recently. It seems like we've hit the entire gamut of topics, and now we're going back and doing it. But it seems like in the last, 2 or 3 months, it's like, everything's battery. It's like
just based upon things that are happening on Facebook, like the Hazmat 2 group. And we do some shows every once in a while. We're like, listen, there's some weird topics. Like there's some good threads that happen that make it kind of clear that we're not all on the same page, right?
Right.
That there's like veer offs and even sometimes questions that get asked that make you go, oh man, if you really understood the physics behind what was going on, you wouldn't even be asking that question, right? Can we use foam on a Tesla fire or and you're like, yeah, man, that's the basics that we need to get back to, right? We need to understand those basics to be able to devise the right tactics. It's like, well, why would we use foam? It's those kinds of questions that kind of make you go, oh man, we are not all on the same page when it comes to how we're going to operate.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we're not on the same page when it comes to a lot of stuff.
That's true.
and I mean, all kidding aside, Bobby and I had this conversation not too long ago. Being part of the FEMA team that he's on, you guys have a playbook, and it's the same playbook whether it's New York Task Force 1 or California Task Force whatever. And there might be a slight variation, but for the most part, you guys are on the same page, right?
There's a federal playbook.
Yeah, and that's where it stops. That's where the same level of stuff just goes away when it trickles down.
Good stuff, man. Anyone else got anyone more or anything? You good?
Good.
Oh, a new variant just came out of COVID. All right. How many times did I ring that bell in the last show? I must have already
7, 8.
People are like, they were sending me all types of texts with like, every time the bell rings, COVID gets a new variant.
That's funny shit.
Well, with all that being said, I hope I speak on behalf of all of us. Thank you all for coming and listening to our drivel on a monthly basis, and have a great rest of the year. We will see you after the new year. Special thanks to our behind the scenes guy, Ben Herskowitz. He is back there, and if he has the ability of saying hi, have the ability?
Do we want to see him? Oh, he said hi. Okay, good.
Man behind the curtain.
That's the guy that's running the whole show, and we really appreciate all the work he does every month. And so, thank you for that as well. Somebody's saying that somebody should write a playbook like Jeff. Good idea. Maybe Jeff can get on that to write a playbook on how to handle these crazy incidents. And we'll be sure to peddle it here. With all that said, thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next year. We can't say
happy,
see you
healthy,
next Tuesday.
Safe New Year.
Damn.